Welcome to this KARE 11 Extras streaming special. I'm Rena Sargentopoulos. Today we are taking a deep dive into a topic that is transformative. A medical breakthrough discovered by two doctors at Mayo Clinic here in Minnesota using AI. The results so stunning it could potentially change the lives of many people born with genetic disorders.
Fly like a butterfly.
Ask any expecting parent, do you want a boy or a girl?
Where's your elbow? Nice!
The answer usually is, we just want them to be healthy.
You did it! Good job!
Going through IVF, Joni and Dave Kraus thought health issues were in the clear, as genetic testing was done as part of the process.
We had our 20-week scan. They found out that she was a little bit small, and they found an undefined heart issue. They didn't quite know what it was. And so we prayed for wisdom, and we went to Mayo for a second opinion.
At 33 weeks, the doctors at Mayo decided a C-section was the best option. Jory Kraus was welcomed into the world.
And they immediately ended up putting her into one of those little incubator things and shipped her off over to the St. Mary's campus. Had both women in my life in two different buildings and trying to split time between both and keep them both okay.
Jory would go on to spend 73 days in the NICU. It turned out she had not one but 5 heart issues, among some other physical anomalies, but nothing that couldn't be overcome.
How are we going to fix it and how we're going to address it? And this wonderful surgeon told Dave, hey, don't worry about it. We're going to figure all of this out. You just need to worry about who she's taking to prom.
Joni and Dave allowed themselves to exhale. But it's not where their baby girl's story ends. Genetic testing came back, a problem. Jory was missing part of her chromosome 10, a spontaneous deletion during pregnancy, meaning it was not inherited from either parent, which is why it wasn't caught during the IVF process. Jory was diagnosed with DeSanto-Chenaui syndrome, a rare genetic disorder that was the cause of her physical issues, but would also cause low muscle tone, developmental delays, and intellectual disabilities. At the time, just a couple dozen people in the world had the same diagnosis.
Joni was asking a little bit about what does that mean, and I just sort of piped up and said that means it's permanent. There's nothing, this one doesn't have a fix, this one doesn't have a surgery. And that's when I had to get up and leave the room.
With no cure, early interventions like physical and speech therapies were the only options. A year passed, and as Jory fell behind with her milestones like crawling and talking, Joni and Dave pushed forward, fighting for answers.
We're at the best hospital in the world. Where's the groundbreaking genetic research? And she had this smile. This big, big smile, and she goes, have you met Dr. Whitney Thompson?
They had, in fact, met Dr. Thompson. She was working in the NICU when they ordered the genetic testing or rapid genome sequencing for Jory right after birth. And since that time, Dr. Thompson had started a new project with Dr. Laura Lambert called Baby Force.
We can send this comprehensive genetic test day 1 in the NICU and get a diagnosis within that first week of life, and it can really make a huge difference for patients. But often we get the diagnosis, but we don't have a treatment, and that's really where Baby Force comes in.
The doctors take a patient's own skin cells and grow them in a lab. Using artificial intelligence, they search for already FDA-approved drugs that could potentially help. Then they test them on the patient's lab-grown cells to see if it works.
Taking a drug that's already approved and already known to be safe really circumvents all of those issues that the rare disease population faces. So we don't have to have that major investment into running a clinical trial because it's off-label use.
For Jory, the top hit from AI was an inexpensive drug commonly used to treat seizures in children. In the lab, it worked like a charm, boosting the levels of the working chromosome to compensate for the deleted one. Since the concept is so new, they had to go through ethics and legal departments first. Jory just started taking the medicine a few months ago. Turns out,
whoa!
It's working like a charm in real life, too.
Good job.
Within days, Jory started going up and down stairs, walking with a walker, even starting to say words.
It's like she was getting the information in, understanding it, but then just couldn't figure out what to do with it.
Yeah.
And now she's starting to figure out what to do with it.
A treatment for an ultra-rare disease would normally take years, if at all. The success in Jory's case opens a door of hope for others in the future.
We're focused on the NICU because certainly the earlier we intervene, potentially the more impact we can have on somebody's life. And the hope is we can move that timeline up even more and start treating before symptoms even develop.
We know this could benefit patients who are born with genetic differences, but it also has applications for cancer, for example, where we could sequence an individual's tumor and understand what's causing the cancer and look for drugs using AI to try to have an impact for those patients as well.
Okay, let's go, 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 go.
Endless possibilities, which is also what these doctors have given Jory.
She's going to be the best Jory that she can be. The barriers have been removed from her.
She's just such a joy. And, you know, we just hope that out of all the hardship that we went through and all that she has gone through, that it will be a beacon of hope to others.
I did it!
Coming up, Jory's mom, Joni, will join us to talk more about her daughter's amazing turnaround and a nonprofit that she's starting to help fund the research for more patients in the future. And we'll talk with Dr. Thompson and Dr. Lambert about the impacts this process could have for other people and other diseases. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We are taking a closer look at some breakthrough medical technology that has the potential to change lives. In fact, it already has. You met Jory earlier in the show, and Jory's mom, Joni Krause, is here now to talk about the amazing turnaround that she's seen in her daughter and the idea that she wants to pay this forward to other families. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having us.
In full disclosure, you used to work here at Care 11 until like 2 weeks ago, right?
I did. I was the director of sales for many, many years, and Care is a big part of my family and our blood and also our support through our rare disease journey.
Yes, and so this is how we found out about this story, because we have known about Jory since she was born, and you have been so delightful in sharing the details of this with us, because it is truly magical what has happened in your life. And we heard a little bit about your journey through IVF and obviously this having Jory born with this rare genetic disorder. This has been transformative for your family, hasn't it?
Absolutely. It definitely changed who we are to the core, and I would like to think we are good people before, right?
Yes.
But you have something that it shakes you.
Yeah.
It had different perspective, what you want to do with your time, how you want to give back, how you want to invest in others, and what's important.
Yes.
Really, really what's important, and what does grit truly mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
and so speaking of grit, we mentioned in the story how the two of you, you and your husband, never stopped fighting, never stopped looking for answers, and you found them, potentially, hopefully, you know, God willing, right? So let's talk a little bit about this journey with the medication that you guys found to finally help maybe reverse some of the things that Jory's been struggling with.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're so lucky that we didn't find, obviously, the medicine. We found Mayo and Dr. Whitney Thompson and Dr. Laura Lambert, and we're just so incredibly thankful. And, you know, before when we got the news of, hey, we're going to do the surgeries, we're going to play a game of whack-a-mole, and we're going to address things, and we're going to hope for the best. And that's terrifying.
Yes.
To hear, hey, we're gonna hope for the best, and we're going to channel in the unknown. And through getting, you know, working with Mayo and partnering with Mayo, and we heard of the opportunity of being in a one, and we got to reconnect with Dr. Thompson and hear of these potential drug candidates and understanding the process. You know, you go in, and again, you're hoping for the best, and you're trying to manage expectations, and then to find out that it not only worked, but it worked with the smallest dose, and it worked with the best outcome of healthy levels, just like nothing genetically was wrong. I mean, it's beyond a lotto ticket.
I bet.
It's just beyond a lotto ticket.
Because when you receive the first diagnosis, it's like, that's it. This is her journey going forward. Nothing's ever going to be normal, quote unquote, or the same. And so now there is the potential that could happen. And
Absolutely.
we have little Jory here with us today, and she is just an absolute joy. And she's sitting still is hard for any 2-year-old, right? So like she's being as patient as she possibly can today. So talk to us about some of the things that have changed since she started taking the medication that we found.
So it was, what we surprised, I think, all of us is that it was almost immediate.
Yeah.
So like 4 days later, and I believe I shared that video with you, she was walking with a walker. And if I had to explain Jory's syndrome or rare disease, I would say it's one big processing disorder.
Okay.
It creates balance, coordination issues, low tone. It was extremely, extremely hard for her Nugget to tell her legs to move. And if we tried to get her to walk on a walker before, she would fall face forward. And 4 days later, after treatment, she was walking and our mouths dropped. Her physical therapist mouth dropped. And it's like, how could this happen? And how could this happen so fast? And then she started babbling more. And what was even more remarkable, and it's still a little spontaneous when it happens, but it's accurate, she started talking. Many of these kids with this diagnosis don't talk to many years, and it's a struggle, but they have all the knowledge inside, they just can't get it out.
Right.
So one of her first words that she said, I kid you not, was, "I did it." And I was like, no. And her occupational therapist is like, no, she said I did it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's nuts.
You were saying that like going up and down the stairs,
That's correct.
that was something that would have taken a long time in therapy to learn how to do.
Yeah, 6 months probably.
And she did it in how long?
5 minutes, and then learned how to rappel down probably just as fast, if not faster. Again, it's just so much to be thankful for. In fact, one of the funny things, and we are big Miss Rachel fans, we are, yep, we're guilty as charged, at our house, and she grabbed the remote and tried to turn the TV on. And then when it wasn't Miss Rachel, gave me that look of, hey mom, and handed me over the remote and just saying, fix it, and signed please.
Oh my goodness.
So just that cognition that she's able to put it together, and it's just amazing.
Do you feel like this has been life-changing, this medication, this program at Mayo, yeah?
I mean, she has a second chance for life.
Yeah.
And I know, like, no one knows, right? We don't have a crystal ball. This never has been done before.
Yeah.
So just as when we got the diagnosis, there was only 27 documented cases at the time. And there's more now, but it's still an ultra rare disease. And to know now that she's so young, and the brain, the plasticity of the brain, and what can be done, and what we've already seen this early in the treatment, we're hoping and praying for her to be neurotypical or very, very close to it, and to go from needing lifelong care to being able to take life by the reins, and this little one's going to move mountains.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt, she already is, right? So talk to me a little bit about what you want for the future, because I know that this has changed your life so deeply, so profoundly, that you want other people to experience the same thing. None of this was paid for by insurance.
No.
This is all through donations, and that these doctors are able to do this kind of research and come up with this kind of breakthrough technology, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This wouldn't have happened without donors to Mayo Clinic. So first and foremost, just thank you from the bottom of our heart to them. And I remember I was talking to Dr. Thompson when we talked about, potentially this story airing. And it was hard for me to talk about this, because where it's an amazing breakthrough and it needed for the purpose to be shared to give hopes to others, it was going down memory lane of the NICU and a lot of things that was just really, really, really tough and very scary, and frankly wasn't that long ago. But we knew when talking, I said, I would be willing to do this, but I want to make sure that not only that, funds get donated to Mayo, but I want a direct channel. Dave and I wanted a direct channel to Dr. Thompson and Dr. Lambert, so they could have more cases to give more second chances, because this is something that you want everyone to have.
Yeah, it's a miracle.
Yeah, and so we're very thankful that for our first project, so to speak, that we're doing, is we talk about the ripple with the Jory effect that's created. And the first ripple to be made a wave is that we're funding the clinical trial for DeSanto-Chenaui syndrome. So kids with or patients with Jory's diagnosis can also get the same treatment.
Yeah.
And again, because of the wonderful work of Dr. Thompson and Lambert. And the second is to further expand that ripple. And this is where I just get super excited, is to help expand their processes for Baby Force so they could have even more patients. And I can't wait to hear about the second individual that they have a breakthrough for, and to hear that ripple to come for a wave. And most importantly, you know, when we were at St. Mary's at Mayo Clinic in the NICU, and we got Jory's unexpected diagnosis. I remember the team coming in and giving us some papers and sharing the story. And with this expansion and with everything that they're doing, I know, and I close my eyes when I go to bed at night, to know the next person that gets a rare diagnosis at that NICU is, instead of saying, hey, you're going to hope for the best, it's going to be, hey, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Whitney Thompson and her partner, Dr. Laura Lambert.
Yeah, absolutely. A GoFundMe, a nonprofit on its way, so that you can help spread this to others. Jory, you've just been so good. You've just been so patient. We did lose one shoe in this operation, but we so appreciate the two of you coming here to share your story. This
Thank you
is so
so
important.
much.
It's so much hope for other families who are given a rare disease diagnosis, right?
Yeah.
So let's just spread the joy. If you'd like to learn more about the GoFundMe or the nonprofit, we have information with this story on care11.com. And coming up next, Drs. Thompson and Dr. Lambert join us to talk about how this process could potentially help so many other people in the future. Welcome back. Joining us now are Drs. Whitney Thompson and Laura Lambert, the driving force behind Baby Force. Ladies, thanks so much for being here today. We learned a little bit about Baby Force in the story that we saw earlier, but how did it start?
Yeah. So, you know, as you heard from Joni earlier with Jory, Jory got an ultra rare genetic diagnosis in our NICU and then was told, you know, but unfortunately there's no treatment, there's nothing we can do. And as you know, a physician in the NICU and also in clinical genetics, for me that's one of the absolute hardest things. You know, we're really good now at diagnosing ultra rare genetic conditions, but unfortunately the treatments are really lagging behind. And so it was one case in our NICU of a patient with an ultra rare genetic condition and really a life-limiting genetic condition, and there were no treatment options, and the patient was really running out of time. And so that's when Dr. Lambert and I met, and you know, we started talking about this case. And Dr. Lambert has expertise in N-of-1 therapeutics and rare disease, and so that's really how Baby Force was born, and then kind of went from there.
Yeah, we started asking ourselves, how can we reach more patients? How can we expand and look at more cases? And then that's when we looked at Jory's case together and thought, wow, this looks like something we could really have an impact.
And you have had an impact, but let's talk about this rare genetic disorder, or when you give this family this diagnosis, it's kind of like, well, here you go, now you know what it is, good luck in life, right? And so this could change all of that, and it has so far for Jory's family. Explain exactly how it works, because with rare diseases, often there's not enough money, there's not enough a pool of people, there's not enough drug companies that are interested because it's not profitable, right? So explain how this is so individualized and what you were doing for Jory.
So for Jory's case, you know, first we start with the diagnosis. We need to get the specific genetic change that Jory has. And for Jory, that was a deletion of part of chromosome 10 for her. And then we use that information along with the mechanism of disease for her, in this case, loss of function or loss of that specific gene and the product of that gene. And we use an AI tool, and that's really where Dr. Lambert's expertise comes in.
Yeah, so we're really able to individualize using this tool. So the AI tools that we have access to, Medicanran and Translator, we're able to put in a specific gene and search all of biomedical literature that's been organized into different nodes and query it based on the mechanism. So in this case, we were able to look for drugs that would upregulate her remaining copy. And so by doing this, and all of this part is done in the computer, so there's very little cost up front just looking for what could potentially be a candidate. We're able to do that at larger scale and reach a lot of patients that way. But it's phase 2, which is actually doing the experiments and the actual drug testing, where it is a little more involved in the laboratory.
Right, but because you're using or trying to find already approved drugs, already FDA approved drugs, you kind of circumvent what is the longest part of people with rare diseases having to go through trials, if someone would even do one, right?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest challenges in rare disease is that, it takes a large investment of time and money to create an individualized treatment. And in this case, we're already looking at drugs that we know are, safe for use in children, safe long-term, available, and things we could get right away if we prove that they're effective.
And why children? Why did you want to start with babies? I mean, I know you both are very interested in that, but I mean, what is the benefit of starting with babies?
So, I mean, certainly that's, where both our hearts are with babies in the NICU. But also it makes a lot of sense. The earlier you can intervene on these conditions, the better, before the manifestations become apparent. And so as early as possible. And we've even talked about how can we move up that timeline even more. Think about these things if we get a diagnosis prenatally so we're ready, the moment a baby is born, because really the earlier the better in a lot of these cases.
You could potentially reverse a disease or a disorder that someone's born with right away.
And prevent it from ever manifesting would be the dream.
That's like mind-blowing, right? Like it's crazy town, isn't it? How does it feel to be involved with something so revolutionary?
Incredible.
Yeah. I feel so fortunate to have met Dr. Lambert and kind of to put our expertise together, and that Jory's family trusted us with her care, and it's been amazing to see.
Let's talk about what other uses this might have, because yes, you could help babies and people with rare genetic disorders, but we talked a little bit about how this could be potentially used in other diseases. Can you kind of go through that a little bit?
Sure, yes. So since the tools that we use are based on the gene and mechanism, we can really point them at any question. So it could be cancer related, particularly like rare cancers. We could look for drugs that might interact with the genes that are misfunctioning there. We can also look at adult populations, or we can look at specific disease states, like liver disease, for example, is another area of focus of ours. So it's really broadly applicable, and it's not restricted by age in particular. This is a passion project and area for us because of the potential for impact.
So, funding. How is that going to work? I mean, I know that donations are always helpful, but this could be so big. This could be upscaled to so many other places. It doesn't just have to happen here at Mayo, and you guys have been talking to other people about this, right? So, funding and moving forward. How do you grow this? How do you scale this?
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, we've been fortunate to have some institution funding from Mayo to get this started, some donor funding as well, but as you heard Joni talk about, certainly donors will be a big part of this. We would really like to grow this and reach as many patients as possible, babies in the NICU, but patients all over outside the walls of Mayo as well. And so, thinking about industry funding as well.
Yeah. And so you guys have been presenting a little bit your findings, and you're going to be publishing very soon. How exciting has that been to get feedback from other people in the medical community?
We were a little nervous at first because we didn't know how it would be received, and the data that was coming out of the lab was just incredible. So we were really excited to get out on a national stage amongst our peers and colleagues and say, this is what we found. And we were happy at the end of it. There's always the Q&A, and we didn't have any really hard-hitting questions that caught us off guard or was something we didn't think of. It was really supportive, and a lot of, can you help us grow this at our institution? Mm-hmm. Can you tell us how you're doing it? Can you share your pipeline with us? We want to do it too.
That's awesome. Yeah. So go ahead.
As I say, it's been just incredible. We were, as Dr. Lambert mentioned, we were nervous the first time we presented because we really didn't know. This is a first of its kind, and so we didn't know what kind of feedback we were going to get, and we've just been blown away by how positive the response has been. We've had industry reach out and see if they can help us grow this, and we're very excited.
And just to reiterate how new this is, Jory's really the first patient that has seen a completely successful outcome from this, and I know you guys are working with other patients now. Do you have any idea how many people have gone through the process, or do we have anybody in the process right now? Or maybe you can't share that, I don't know.
For NICU patients specifically, we have a handful in the process right now. None have gotten quite as far as Jory. And then this has been opened up to other patients as well, similar process. And so Dr. Lambert has some more cases that she's been working on.
Right, yeah, outside of the NICU itself, it's really increased our enthusiasm for tackling this for Mayo patients from all departments. So, we have a handful from the NICU, but we have a few dozen across Mayo Clinic.
Go ahead.
And my dream is that, as Joni mentioned earlier, any patient that we give an ultra-rare genetic diagnosis to in our NICU, we can then say, and this is our baby force process, and we're going to work on a treatment.
And by the way, the treatment that worked for Jory maybe wouldn't work for another patient even with the same syndrome, but if they have the same deletion that she does, then maybe you already know that the drug that you gave her could potentially work for someone else with the same issue. Is that right?
Yeah, certainly other patients with the same deletion as Jory, we would be optimistic that this might help. There are other types of genetic changes that can also lead to what we call loss of function, and those might also be amenable to therapy. But yes, unfortunately, not every single type of genetic variant would necessarily respond to this treatment.
But you could find a different one.
Exactly.
Just as easily, right? And I loved how you smiled so big when we did our original interview, and I said, how soon did you start to see in the lab when you took her skin cells and you grew them and you were using this drug? How soon did you see the results? Big smile.
Yeah, within a few months. I mean, it was unreal, and we wanted to be sure, so we kept running different experiments and looking at it different ways. And we'd have a collaborator down the hall run it completely independently of us, and we got the same result. And so that's when we met and looked at each other, and we're like, I think we're ready to share this with the family.
Awesome. I'm so thankful that you guys were able to come here today and share your research and your work with us, and I know that you will continue to do awesome things and change other people's lives as well. So thank you for all you guys do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Again, if you want to find out more about the story, more about the research, more about the 501c3 that is going to be started, we do have all that information along with links on this story at care11.com. All right, until we see you again, have an excellent day, friends.